Hey everybody, Mitch again. Okay, this has been the elephant in my room for a while. So this I'm really proud of, except for I'm not proud of it anymore. This was actually the first thing that I created when I moved into my house. So I found after weeks of like looking for how to create this type of thing, I found it on Hubbard's Handmade. I'll put a link in the description of his video. It's from about 8 years ago, I think. And it was exactly what I was looking for. The thing I loved about this design is it actually uses the back wall or the outside wall of the garage as support because there's studs going up, so you don't have to make extra stuff. So worked really well, except for the fact that I kind of didn't do things correctly. The biggest thing I did not do is, if you look here in the middle, I have these black and yellow bins that's really popular now. I kind of made the 3 bays that I have here big enough to support 2 sets of those side by side, or 2 of those with 2 on top, which is great for that. But I was going to put everything in these gray bins, which are not as big. And the problem, as you see, is any open space just collected junk. So that's going to end today, or this week, whenever I get done with this. So I'm going to start this project here shortly, and I'm going to do a prototype on this side, and I think I can do it without taking it down all the way. And I'm just going to unload stuff, and then I'm going to make one of those kind of the yellow storage bin stackable things that you've probably seen as all the rage these days. I'm going to make a variation of that to where I can store the bins at the bottom and actually at the top as well. Later, I'll probably come back, and the stuff at the top is our holiday stuff, so Christmas, fall decorations, etc. Probably going to redo all those to use the standard size bins so that we can get more of them up there and be a little bit easier to get down and put back up. But really, this is really great, except for the fact that I just didn't design it well. And Hubbard put on his, he put put doors on it, which I really should have done, because that does keep the dust and stuff like that out. I'm going to do a variation where it's not going to be a problem, and I'll get into that as I go. But this is what we're doing. So you're going to take all this scrap down, and then I'm consolidate some stuff. And just going to start, like I said, I'm going to start on this side over here. I'm going to try and figure out how I'll put this together so I can take it apart. I called my friend Brandon the other night. I'm like, how do we do this? Because I can't actually remember. But I think what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to end up cutting those 2x4s, or 3 in a row, cutting those off with a Sawzall, and then basically just taking that stuff down. And once I have one of them out of the way, I can get the rest of the shelf out, because it's actually one big set of 2x4s there. So it's too big for me to actually move in and out without actually going into the house with it, which is what I think worked. And then I think that's it. So a lot of this may not make sense, but anyway, as you can see, my garage just has crap everywhere, and stuff behind me where I actually work is even worse because I ran out of places to stick things. And as you can see, I've got holiday wreaths on the floor there because I couldn't put them at the top very well. So I'm going to put all this stuff, get it all cleaned up, get the new system put in place. And what we'll be going from is a horizontal system into a vertical system. And that should give me much more room. I can make it much more efficient as what it is, because the cool thing about these boxes is they're really convenient, but they ruin a lot of space, or they waste a lot of space. So I'm going to consolidate stuff and just try to make it better. So this is going to be a probably several weekend project, and I'll kind of take you with me as I go. But we're going to start over here on this and get this all cleaned out and cut apart, and then we'll start working on that one. So stay tuned. So let's take a look at what we're doing here. So I have several different bays here. I thought I was going to have 6, but it turns out I'm only going to have 5, with the last bay being a bit bigger or a bit smaller than I really wanted. So we'll have to figure that out when I get there. So each one of the bays is made up of a 2x4 stud, and then a piece of wood that goes at the bottom, and then one at the top to make a C. So we put one against the wall and one against the front here. And then we'll put these sliders in, or rails that the actual buckets, etc., will sit on. So the way I've done this is I take the 2x4, which is the bottom piece is 20 inches across, or 20 inches long, and then I butt joint it to the stud, and then I put pocket holes in the other end so that I can actually tie it into the other stud. And the reason I do that is because we have a couple knowns and a couple unknowns here. The knowns are, I know that the shelves were flat at one time because I basically built them off of a specific height, not on the height of the floor. The floor slopes down toward the door of the garage. So I know that the height of the shelf is solid and should be good to go. So what I did is every one of the vertical studs is measured to be in place. So they really don't take that much weight, even though I've built them to take the weight. It appears that after I built this, that only the ends, like over here, you'll notice I have a triple stud over there, then I have a triple stud on the other end. Those are the ones actually bearing the load for the whole thing, it turns out. And I really didn't figure that out until I started taking things apart. And so like this thing is just hanging in midair, which I don't understand, but that's the way it worked. So anyway, so I'm down to the last regular size bay. I'm going to put those in. That stud right there in the back is giving me trouble because it is about as straight as a piece of spaghetti. So I'm still debating if I want to take that out and just redo it, or if I want to try and fix it. I don't know at this point. I'm kind of frustrated, so I'm not thinking correctly. So anyway, so this will be the last bay, and then after that, I'll go and create some of those rails, which are just, again, 2x that have been cut down to length, and I use spacers, and we'll get into that in the next section here. So anyway, so I have this one, and I need to make up my mind what I'm going to do over here, because I'm going to have about, 20, so they're 24 inches. It's about 30 inches or more, 32 inches. So I may make that either two small bays or one big bay. And that'll be stuff for vertical storage, like for ladders and things like that. So that's where we are. So as you can see, I have a spacer here, and I'm holding up the rail, and the spacer in this case is 4.5 inches from the top, and again, the top is flat. So what I'm doing is I'm actually pinning it with some brad nails. Now these are not structural in any way. They're 2-inch brad nails. They only stick into the stud 1.5 inches, or sorry, 1/2 inch. And here I am just putting a screw in, and then I'll use my level to actually level it out. And that's just the easiest way. Since I'm working by myself and I'm kind of going over my head and things like that, I just found it easier just tack them in place, and then that way I don't have to worry about wrestling a stud and a block. So here's a progress update. As you can see, I have all of the vertical bays installed. I left a little bit of space on the left because, like I said, it was kind of an odd size bay. I'm going to put ladders and stuff there. Also, you'll notice on the right hand side, I have an Facebook Marketplace find that I've been looking for years, which are these very thin drawers. Found a pair of them for $100. Could not. I've literally been looking for these for years. And they hold a tremendous amount of stuff. I'll get into those much later. But as you can see, we have all of the rails for the top put in. Those are the 18-gallon or 17 gallons. And then I just have to put the stuff in the bottom and put some other things in the middle. And we'll get to that in just a second. So here we have everything put into place. All the bays are done. As you see, I have the space on the left for the ladders and things. The top is ready. I've put the floor in, so all I did there is just cut plywood to fit the space. It's hard to see, but in the back what I did is I had a little bit of extra space between the wall and the racks, so I just plugged both ends with a piece of wood and then put spray foam insulation in there just to block it up, and that's to keep the critters like mice and rats from coming in, because we do have those around here because we're still kind of sort of in the country. So that was a problem which I didn't realize I had until I actually started taking things apart and found rat sign. So that was just a protective measure. But everything is progressing, so getting closer to the end.
And here you can see we are fully populated. So I have all of my medium-sized totes at the top, already have labels on them. I have some 5-gallon totes on the left-hand side that I found at the same place at Lowe's. I actually have 2 sets of those, or 2, so it's 4 total. I have the big ones at the bottom ready to go, as well as my new storage cabinets there. So everything's looking good. So here you can see some shelves that I'm working on. So this is for wood cutoffs. I'd already kind of had this in the middle, so I just went and recreated this. No, this is just plywood and 2x4s just held up, and I just made the actual walls of the thing, the spacers, and just put more plywood and 2x on top of that. I was going to put drawers on the left-hand side. We'll get to that in a minute. I had a change of plans at the end, but otherwise, this is looking excellent. I'm very happy with how we're going. So this is what the wood storage looks like when it's populated. I went ahead and filled everything up with cutoffs in various places. This is what it looks like. Working great. Okay, so this is going to take a little bit of explaining. So I decided to put some drawers in here, and as I'm looking at it, I realize it would just be cheaper and faster for me to just put another bucket there. So what you see in front of you is what they call unistrut. So this is used by the plumbing and electrical people putting things in ceilings, etc. They have holes on the sides. They're made out of steel. They come in a couple, 3 different sizes. I just got them and cut them down. This happened to be green. Thought they'd be a little bit of a different than just metal. It turned out they did not work the way that I wanted. They did work, but I decided, I think I built 2 of them, and I was like, okay, this is enough. So I kind of abandoned the idea, but it still works. So with this, the idea is I have a big thing on there. It's heavy. I can pull the whole thing out rather than pull the whole shelf out rather than pulling out the entire bucket and putting it on something else. And here's how the shelf looks. So basically it's just a couple pieces of plywood sandwiched together, and it just slides in and out. I didn't put a handle on or anything. Still kind of work in progress, but it works. And here we have a pretty much finished product. So everything is exactly the way I'd hoped. I will tell you, and I think I mentioned it later, but the 2 new storage cabinets did put a kink in everything, but that's fine. But I have smaller storage at the top, very small storage at the left. I have storage for my ladders and dolly, and then the heaviest stuff is on the bottom, and it kind of goes well from there. I've got my cutoffs right in the middle where I used to have them, and then I've got the cabinets for the small stuff. But this is turning out to be exactly what I had planned, so much more efficient use of space, and I cannot believe I waited so long to make this happen. So here is a weird project. So I had this gap in the space between the cabinets, the new cabinets, and the rails. And so what I thought I would do for some of my smaller cutoffs is make a series of shelves. That's what these are. So they're about 3 inches wide or so, and I just have some Home Depot has this door skin material that you can get. It's like 3 millimeters, 2.7 millimeters or something. So I got that and just glued it to the glued and stapled it to the front and the back, or sides, I guess, or basically side to side. And then I'm just putting that in there, and in a minute you'll see how it works out. But this is to store smaller cutoffs. And it's actually worked out really well. You'll see it here in a minute, but all I'm doing is just putting out there, and I'm cutting the stuff. Again, it's not very thick, so I just cut it with a utility knife, and then I just snap it and bend it a couple directions, and I snap it, and then it basically just comes off. And then this is where I figure out this has got to be the weirdest stuff I have ever seen in my life. It is actually held together with thread of some type. I don't even know what it is, but it runs through it. I guess it's some kind of a structural member. So that was totally unexpected. I was going to use some of this to play with my laser, but if I got that stuff in the middle, I'm not going to do it. So yeah, so that stuff is embedded in the middle of it, and it does something or the other. I don't know what. I guess, again, structure, but who knows. So this will be put in between one of the cabinets and the side, and we'll put some small thin cutoffs that I have in there.
And here we are. We are all finished. So let's take an overview, then we'll take it off the camera mount, and we'll take a nauseating drive-by of everything we did here. So got all of the stuff arranged in my little bins. You got labels for everything. I've got my shelf in the middle that I wanted to put my cutoffs in. I've got my long shelf over there to put the longer, smaller pieces in. I got my 2 massive storage cabinets, and let me tell you, those things can hold some stuff. So everything worked out exactly as I wanted. So let me undo this and we'll go and take a gander. So we'll start on this side. So here we just have the storage for the ladders and my light bulbs I'm trying to get rid of, and my dolly, my fishing poles, my bug assault, and a few other things. I've got 4 5-gallon totes in there, so I haven't labeled those because I don't know where to put the label where I can see it. So that's the thing. So that's all good. So I can take the ladders out either this way or the other way, mostly this way. Everything on the bottom is good. I've got to replace one bucket because it broke because it's so old. This worked out perfectly. So I got storage for all my wood cutoffs that I use occasionally and probably need to burn for firewood in some cases. This is really cool. This is the actual that weird thing that I made that looked like a weird shelf. That is exactly what it is, a weird shelf. And so that is all in that, and that takes care of my little bitty pieces that I want to save. They do stick out a bit much. So I tried to put the big ones on the bottom. That way that they don't stick out too much, because I had those in the top here and I ran into them about 6 times, kept cutting my arms off. Anyway, got a little gap there that I can put something in one day. Other than that, all of these have stuff in them. They're not all, they're kind of organized. I've got to finish making labels. I'm going to make another video about fixing my these labels and making new pools. I'm just going to I was going to tack it on the end of this video, but I decided I'm not going to do that. Over here, the final part, I've got just a couple of jacks that I've just got kind of actually bolted in, along with my axe, and then just some, there's a epoxy spinning machine that I use to store some epoxy. And then this is just my yard stuff over here. And then plywood cutoffs, and then my chair storage. Still need to work on the chair storage a bit. The plywood thing, I may put, I think, another vertical position here, partition, to make it go. But other than that, I am extremely pleased. Like I said, the cabinets did cause me a problem because I lost 2 large bins here, or sorry, 4 large bins. And so I didn't get everything in here that I wanted, but these things are so handy and they hold so much stuff. I mean, I got pen blanks in here that were in my big gray monster cabinet way in the back, if you can see that. Everything that was in that big cabinet back there is now in here, and I still have room to spare. So anyway, I'll have links to all of the other videos where I got this stuff, and I'll try to do dimensions and stuff like that as well. Mine is very specific to me, so it may not make a lot of sense for a lot of people, because I was trying to get into my personal space here. But anyway, if you got any questions, leave them in the comments, and I'll be happy to get back to you.